There are two completely different stories being told about the FBI and Nolan Wells right now, and only one of them is true. In the first story, the one racking up millions of views, federal agents have swept in, taken over, and are closing in on someone. In the second story, the one the FBI actually put in writing, the Bureau is assisting a local sheriff with specific tools on a case that same sheriff is still firmly leading. Tonight is about the difference between those two stories, because that difference is the whole game, and it connects directly to the other name in every thumbnail this week, Katie. The young woman Nolan spent his last afternoon with, whose account supposedly just took a shocking turn. So we are going to do something the viral channels skip. We are going to tell you what Katie's family has actually said, consistently from the beginning, and let you see for yourself whether anything about it turned at all. Start with the piece almost everyone gets wrong. The FBI confirmed it is helping with certain aspects of this investigation, including examining digital evidence, because Horn Island is federal land, and separately, that it is addressing threats made to people connected to this case, serious enough to cross state lines. That is the real federal story here. Not a takeover of Nolan's death investigation, a response to what this case's own online frenzy has unleashed on the living. Keep that distinction close, because tonight it explains almost everything. If you want the verified version of this case instead of the viral one, tap like and drop your city in the comments. It pushes careful reporting ahead of the noise. Now what the FBI actually said, word for word. On the 16th of July, new details about the FBI's involvement reached the public, and the Bureau's Jackson field office put its role in writing. Read slowly, because every clause matters. While the FBI has assisted with certain aspects of the investigation, aspects where federal tools and partnerships proved valuable to the Jackson County Sheriff's Office, the Sheriff's Office is leading and will continue to lead the investigation. The statement went on to describe a long-standing, trusting partnership between the county and the Bureau, the kind that regularly works side by side on complex cases. Notice what that statement does and does not say. It does not say the FBI opened a federal case into Nolan's death. It does not say agents took over. It does not say a suspect has been identified or that a crime has even been established. What it says is narrower and, frankly, ordinary, a local sheriff working an unusual case on federal land, borrowed federal tools. That is it. And there is a plain, non-dramatic reason the FBI is anywhere near this case at all. Geography. Horn Island is not ordinary Mississippi shoreline. It is part of the Gulf Islands National Seashore, federally protected land managed by the National Park Service. That is why it was a park ranger, not a county deputy, who found Nolan's body. When a death occurs on or around federal land, federal and local agencies routinely coordinate. Sheriff John Ledbetter said as much directly. The involvement is not out of the ordinary. Because Horn Island sits on federal land and his office works with the FBI regularly, he also confirmed the specific help the Bureau is assisting with the examination of digital evidence collected so far. Digital evidence, phones, data, the electronic trail, exactly the kind of forensic work a small county leans on federal labs to handle. And understand what that phrase actually contains, because it is more consequential than a takeover would be. Digital evidence in a case like this means device extractions, pulling the full contents of phones, including material a user believed was deleted. It means location data, app activity, the timestamps that either confirm or contradict every human account of that day. The FBI's laboratory capability for data recovery runs far beyond what a county the size of Jackson could field alone. So when people hear the Bureau is examining digital evidence and picture a dramatic raid, they have the drama in the wrong place. The real power is quieter. The electronic record of that afternoon is being read by people who can recover what others cannot. If Nolan's phone, the one his family says came back with content missing, holds anything beneath the surface, this is the capability that finds it. That is not something happening to the family. It is something the family has wanted from the start. It also sits squarely inside the joint phone inspection both sides agreed to, family experts alongside official investigators. The takeover story frames federal involvement as a threat to the family's search for answers. The reality runs the opposite way. It helps to understand why the takeover narrative caught fire in the first place, because the mechanics matter. 3 letters, FBI, carry enormous weight in the public imagination. To most people, federal involvement means one thing: someone important thinks a serious crime happened. So the moment the Bureau's name attached to this case, a shortcut fired in millions of heads. FBI equals crime equals suspect equals arrest coming. That shortcut is wrong here, but it is emotionally satisfying, and satisfying beats accurate every time in a comment section. A channel that titles its video FBI Takes Over will outclick a channel that titles its video FBI Assists with Digital Forensics 10 times over, even though only the second one is true. That is not an accident of this case. It is the business model of the ecosystem that grew up around it. And there is a specific, verifiable reason to reject the takeover framing beyond the Bureau's wording. The sheriff never stepped back. Sheriff Ledbetter has continued to speak as the lead authority at every stage, issuing the statements, fielding the questions, setting the pace. Federal takeovers do not look like that. When the FBI genuinely assumes control of an investigation, the local agency recedes and federal officials step to the podium. That has not happened once here. The county is still driving. The Bureau is still, in its own word, assisting. So that is the first half of the federal story. And it is almost boringly reasonable. The second half is not boring at all, and it is the half the viral videos skip, because it does not fit the takeover narrative. Quick pause, and it grows straight out of what this case has become. Watch how ordinary the people at the center of any case like this always look. Friends, neighbors, familiar faces. Most dangerous people do not look dangerous. They look like the trusted ones, the ones nobody questions, until the warning signs that were there the whole time suddenly seem obvious. Too late. That is exactly why I wrote my book, How to Spot Dangerous People Before They Hurt You. Not to teach fear, to teach recognition, how criminals actually think, the warning signs they give long before they act, and the behaviors that could save your life or the life of someone you love. If that matters to you, the link is in the description. Read it before you ever need it, not after. Now, the second half of the FBI story, the part that actually matters. The threats. Separate from the digital evidence help, the FBI confirmed to ABC News that it is working to address interstate threats received by individuals related to this matter. Read that again, because it is the true center of the federal story. The Bureau's most active role in the Nolan Wells case, by its own account, is not chasing how Nolan died. It is protecting living people from threats aimed at individuals connected to the case, serious enough and crossing enough state lines to become a federal crime in their own right. Think about what that actually describes. Somewhere out there, real people connected to this case are receiving threats frightening enough that the federal government has stepped in. And the engine generating those threats is the same online storm that made this case a national story in the first place. The theories, the accusations, the viral certainty about who did what, aimed at named and identifiable people who have not been charged with anything. One of Nolan's own friends, Trakiston Shepard, put the human cost of it plainly in his interview. "It worries me for my friends," he said. "It worries me for my family." That is a young man describing what it feels like to be at the center of an internet, convinced it already knows the answer. It is worth understanding why threats like these become federal at all, because it demystifies the Bureau's presence entirely. A threat made in person, within one town, is usually a local matter. But the instant a threat crosses a state line, a message sent from one state to a person in another, which is what happens when strangers across the country target people in Mississippi through social media, it can become a federal crime under the laws governing interstate communications. The internet makes nearly every viral case threat interstate by default. So when the Bureau says it is addressing interstate threats received by individuals related to this matter, it is describing something concrete. People connected to Nolan's story are being menaced by strangers who found them online, some living far enough away that only a federal agency has the reach to pursue them. And the fear is not abstract. One of the young men connected to this case has a mother who is a sitting local judge, a woman who has said publicly that she fears for her children's safety amid the storm of accusation. Whatever anyone believes about this case, the people being threatened have not been charged with anything. They are, at this moment, legally innocent citizens receiving threats credible enough that federal agents are involved. That is not a detail the takeover videos want, because it points the moral arrow in an uncomfortable direction, back toward the audience itself. So here is the irony the takeover narrative completely misses. The FBI's biggest confirmed role in this case is, in a sense, a response to the case's own audience. Not evidence of a hidden crime, evidence of what unchecked speculation does to real people. When channels tell you the FBI moving in proves someone is guilty, they have it exactly backwards. The federal involvement everyone is citing as proof of a cover-up is, by the Bureau's own words, largely about stopping the harassment those same theories produced. Let that reframe how you watch this entire case. The FBI is closing in thumbnail is selling you a story the FBI itself contradicted in writing. And the family's own attorney, Ben Crump, has been blunt about the broader problem, warning that this case is being flooded with misinformation, including AI-generated images, fabricated evidence manufactured and passed around as real. In an environment like that, the discipline is simple and it is everything. If a claim about this case did not come from a named official, a court record, or a credible outlet, treat it as fiction until proven otherwise. Which brings us to the other name that discipline applies to most urgently. Katie, one beat before we get to her, for the person at the center of all of this. Underneath the FBI headlines and the viral theories is a family that buried their son this week and still does not know how he died. So put his name in the comments, Nolan Wells, and let the record under this video hold a person, not a theory. Now, what Katie's family actually said. Katie McCormack's name has been attached to some of the most sensational framing in this entire case. A shocking new witness statement, a surprising turn, the girl who finally broke her silence with something explosive. So let us set the sensational framing aside completely and look only at what her family has actually verifiably said. To understand why her family spoke at all, you have to understand how her name entered this case, because it did not enter through Katie. It entered through the worst hours of the search. When Nolan first failed to come home, the account relayed to his frantic mother included a girl he had reportedly wanted to stay behind with, a girl no one in the group could fully identify. And in the chaos of that first night, a second terrifying rumor attached itself that this girl might be missing too. For a few hours, a mother searching for her son was told there might be 2 children lost on that island, the second one nameless. That rumor was false. The girl was Katie. She had never been missing. She had gone home safely on another boat and been reachable the whole time. But by then, her first name was already loose in a national story, and the internet did what it does. It filled the blank around her with invention. The account that finally corrected the record came from a member of Katie's family, Katie McCormack, who spoke publicly for one specific reason, not to drop a bombshell, but to stop the speculation swallowing a young woman who had done nothing wrong. And here is the important part, the part that survives fact-checking. That account has not lurched from one version to another. It has stayed consistent. Katie was on Horn Island that day. She spent time with Nolan. The two parted ways that afternoon. She left the island safely, on a different boat with her own family, and was reachable the entire time. Which put to rest an early and terrifying rumor that she, too, had gone missing. She had not. She was home. And on the single most important point, her family's account has been steady from the beginning. By their telling, Katie believed Nolan was heading back to rejoin his friends and get on their boat before it left. She said her goodbyes, assuming he had a ride home. She has no knowledge, her family says, of what happened to him after they parted, and she has been cooperating with law enforcement throughout. Now, where is the shocking turn in any of that? There isn't one. What the sensational headlines are actually reacting to is not a change in Katie's story. It is the collision between Katie's consistent account and a different account, the one attributed to Nolan's friends, in which Nolan chose to stay behind rather than leave. That contradiction is real, and it matters enormously. But it is not Katie changing her story. It is two accounts that have sat in conflict from early on, repackaged this week as if one of them just dramatically shifted. It did not. Hold both accounts side by side, because the honest version of this case lives in the gap between them, not in either headline built on top of them. Katie's account, through her family, Nolan said he was coming back to the boat. The friend's account, as relayed through investigators and the family's legal team, Nolan said he was staying. Both cannot be complete. One of them is missing something, a misunderstanding, a changed mind in the minutes nobody witnessed, a memory reshaped by a traumatic day, or something else entirely. And no one with the authority to resolve it has said publicly which account the evidence supports. That is not a dodge. That is the actual state of the record, and anyone claiming to know more than that is guessing. What makes the gap so heavy is a fact you already know. The last confirmed sighting of Nolan was around 3 in the afternoon, and the track data shows the boat did not leave the island until 4:31. Somewhere in that window, whatever plan Nolan actually had either happened or fell apart. Katie's account and the friend's account are two descriptions of a decision made inside that unaccounted for stretch of time, which is exactly why investigators, and eventually a grand jury, will care so much about which one holds up, and why the internet's habit of declaring it already solved does so much damage. And notice who pays for that habit. Katie McCormack is a teenager whose first name became a national search term because she happened to talk to a boy on a beach. Her family did not go public to accuse anyone or to feed the frenzy. They went public because the frenzy had already found her, and they wanted the record straight before speculation hardened into something worse. The very kind of speculation that, elsewhere in this case, has produced the threats the FBI is now investigating. That is why this channel will not mine her social media, will not speculate about her, and will not treat her as a character in a mystery. Her account matters. Her privacy is not ours to spend. So step back and see how neatly the two halves of tonight fit together, because they are the same lesson. The FBI story got distorted into a takeover it never was. Katie's account got distorted into a turn it never took. Both distortions came from the same place, an audience so hungry for a break in this case that it manufactures one every few days, out of whatever raw material is closest at hand. A federal statement becomes a raid. A grieving family's clarification becomes a bombshell. A consistent account becomes a shocking reversal. None of it is true, and all of it travels faster than the truth ever will. Here is what is actually verifiably true tonight. The Jackson County Sheriff's Office is leading this investigation and has been the entire time. The FBI is assisting with digital evidence because the death occurred on federal land, and separately working to address interstate threats against people connected to the case. The district attorney has committed to presenting the completed investigation to a grand jury. Katie's family has given a consistent account that has not turned. Nolan's friends have given a conflicting account. Neither has been publicly resolved. Nobody has been charged. Nobody has been named a suspect. And the one piece of evidence that could reshape all of it, the autopsy with its cause and manner of death, still does not exist in public form, because the state medical examiner is still waiting on toxicology, and the family's independent autopsy results have not been released either. That last fact is the quiet truth underneath every loud headline. As of tonight, no one, not the sheriff, not the FBI, not Katie's family, not Nolan's friends, not the loudest channel on the internet, actually knows how Nolan Wells died. Everything else is context waiting on that answer. When it arrives, this case changes. Until it does, anyone selling you certainty is selling you something that does not exist. That answer is coming, and when it does, when the autopsy findings are released, when the grand jury acts, when there is something real to report, the verified breakdown will be here and nothing before it is confirmed. If that is the coverage you want on this case, subscribe and turn on notifications, because the next real development is the one that matters. This week, Nolan Xavier Wells was laid to rest in Ocean Springs, in front of the town that raised him, a teammate, a son, a friend his own friends describe as the one who brought everyone together. His mother asked for a celebration instead of only grief, because she knew him better than any headline ever will. He deserves an answer. So does everyone whose name got pulled into the storm around his. And an answer, real and verified, is the only thing worth waiting for. Nolan Wells. Say his name, and be careful what you believe until the truth actually arrives.